Recording has begun. Consider yourself warned. Thank you. My name is Aaron McCran. I'm the Executive Director of the Community Foundation. And this is, as I mentioned, is our third session. The session is being recorded. Actually, I think I've covered all these things. It'll be rebroadcast on Shaw. The other two sessions are already up on our website and also on YouTube. And you can certainly ask questions in the chat window throughout this session. We will host a Q&A at the end of the session today. Please be patient as the questions roll in. We'll try to gather them together so that our speakers have a more concise set of questions to respond to. So the agenda for today's meeting is going to be 1 hour long at the most. And we'll start off with a little bit of an update of what's happening with the Community Foundation. In the last two sessions, we've talked about the Community Response Fund, which is the Foundation's way of helping local organizations deal with this current crisis by providing emergency grant support to organizations throughout the region. Information on that can be found at our website, cfso.net. Today, the foundation topic will be about responsive neighborhood small grants, and our Regional Development Officer, Kim English, will speak to that. After Kim speaks, we'll hear from Myrna Tischer from OneSky Community Resources, and then Jenny Pedwell from Princeton Family Services. Cherry Fernandez will then speak from South Okanagan Immigrant and Community Services. And then Mirjana, I hope I get your pronunciation right, Mirjana Komljenovic from Neighbourlink in Summerland. And then again, we'll have Q&A at the end of the session. If you have information or advice that can be shared through the chat box for others, please feel free to do that as the meeting continues. So I'd now like to ask Kim English to please unmute yourself, turn your camera on, and you can speak about responsive neighborhood small grants. Okay, thanks, Kim. Are you there?
Hi there. I am. Can you see my video?
There we are. Go ahead.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Just to like to remind everyone to mute your speakers if you're not speaking. My name is Kim English. I'm the Community Foundation Regional Community Development Officer. And I am happy, sorry, could, I think it's Beth, mute yourself. Thank you, that's great, thanks. Yes, my name is Kim English from the Community Foundation, and I am happy to announce a new funding stream for residents to apply for up to $500 for a responsive neighborhood small grant. Over the last few weeks, we have witnessed how folks in our communities are self-organizing through online platforms to support each other and address social isolation. The Community Foundation, along with our co-funder, the Vancouver Foundation, we're interested to support these citizen-led movements by delivering small responsive grants. Households who have a great idea to strengthen belonging and connectedness in their community are encouraged to apply. The core values of responsive neighborhood small grants remain the same as our past neighborhood small grants. Where we live matters, small is beautiful, and great things happen when we come together. So what this looks like, grants up to $500 will be available to households in the South Okanagan Similkameen to carry out small community responsive projects. Think of projects that can ease social isolation of vulnerable people, for example, dropping off care packages to elderly or other vulnerable people from a safe distance. Other projects can be sharing a skill and using many of the online platforms that are available. These can be art and culture workshops, cooking demonstrations, storytelling, or yoga and meditation sessions. The budget for a responsive neighborhood small grant can include costs for materials, food, mileage, and subscription costs. And the honorarium has been increased. What's different this year with the application from previous neighborhood applications are projects can only be carried out by individuals and or family members from the same household. There's no longer a requirement for a co-applicant to apply. And projects that bring 3 or more people together are no longer eligible. And of course, this is all in response to the COVID-19 and the social isolation and distancing rules. We are going to be offering responsive neighborhood small grants in 2 phases this year. The online application opens this Friday and it closes July 1st. Applications will be reviewed every second week by a volunteer committee, and the second phase of responsive grants will be available in the fall. So if you want to know more, do visit cfso.net. You can apply there as well. You can join our mailing list so you get updates on when the grant becomes available and story updates. And if you have any questions, you can send me an email at kimenglish@cfso.net. So yeah, that's a really exciting announcement for us. Now it's time to introduce today's first speaker of the virtual town hall on belonging and connectedness. Myrna Tischer is from OneSky Community Resources in Penticton. Myrna will share how the coronavirus is impacting OneSky and how they are reaching and connecting with their clients and with the community. Myrna, if you could turn on your audio and video now. Thank you and welcome.
Hi there. Thanks for inviting me for today. Of course, we normally, under the Better at Home program, would be providing non-medical supports for seniors, transportation to appointments, in-home visiting, help with housekeeping, light housekeeping, shopping, those kinds of things, yard work. It's the COVID-19 resulted in suspension of many of those services. Very, very hard thing to do because so many of our folks are already quite socially isolated. We're now responding under the Safe Seniors, Strong Communities initiative. We are the hub agency that will be, we're receiving all of the requests through BC 211. So seniors who are looking for support can call phone 211 or apply online through BC 211. And what we're responding to now is mainly things like grocery shopping, pharmacy pickup. We're checking in with people, doing virtual visits, doing a few other things, but those are the main gist of what we're up to at the moment. Hoping to include possibly some meal delivery if there hasn't been a great need shown at this point, but we're been checking in with all of our people who are normally getting our services just to check in and see how they're doing. So yeah, that's it's been a busy time and a hard time for some people where the phone check-ins are getting a little bit longer. Caregivers are having a difficult time because some of their services have been postponed. Things like adult day services are not, day programs aren't operating. So there's a lot of caregiver stress. There's just, you know, we're all experiencing a bit of social isolation. So people who are generally already socially isolated are having a bit of a hard time. We are having a fantastic uptake in volunteers. However, lots of volunteers have stepped up, wishing to help, delivering groceries, calling people, all those kinds of things. So it's lovely to see what's been happening.
Question for you about reaching out to the seniors right now. I know that a lot of people are getting pretty handy at using this type of platform, Zoom and others, but obviously that can be more of a challenge for older generations. And I'm just wondering how you've seen that play out and how it's affecting your connections with your clients.
Yeah, unfortunately for the majority of the people that we provide support to, the access to both access to technology and the familiarity with technology isn't there in the same way. So we're mainly making telephone calls. Those folks that may be really hard of hearing are really, really left out in that regard. And there's times when I wish for certain people, I'd love to have, you know, them have access to internet and an iPad, but, you know, that's an expensive endeavor for someone who's on a very fixed income, and grocery prices are going up, and you know, there's a lot of things that just don't come together in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Has your organization looked at doing any new programs as a result of the pandemic, or are you just ramping up programs that are already there? You know, you mentioned some meal some meal delivery work. Has that happened yet, or is that in the planning stages?
It's one of the things that is a service under the Strong Seniors or Safe Seniors Strong Communities. It's just not been, I would like to be able to do that. I think if we were able to offer it, there would be more uptake. At the moment, there hasn't been a great request for that. But as things progress, that'll be one of our goals. And looking at creative ways to get people together. Though, you know, there are a few of the seniors who have been able to just sort of connect with each other, and you know, we'll look at different ways that we can move this along. It's actually such an interesting opportunity to do things differently, to get people used to things like online, not online perhaps, but telephone banking. Right. That's a big thing for folks who just are used to using cash. And so there's so many pieces like that most of us forget about, that being quite foreign.
Right. Well, Myrna, thank you very much for your presentation, for taking the time today. There will, I'm sure, be questions at the end. And I'm going to now ask Jenny Pedwell to turn on her camera and her microphone and speak to us about Princeton Family Services. Are you available, Jenny?
I am here.
There we go.
Okay, thanks, Aaron, for asking me to partake in the town hall meeting today. So I'm just going to start with telling you a little bit about Princeton Family Services. We first became an organization in 1977, so we've been around for quite a while now, 43 years. We offer quite a variety of services in our community. So I'm going to list a few of the things that we offer here. One is a peace program, and that's working with kids from 3 to 18 years old that have witnessed violence in their life. So we offer counseling for those kids. We have an STV program, which is Stopping the Violence, and that's a counseling program for women. We offer the Safe Home, so for women that are fleeing abuse, they can call our Safe Home number, and we talk them through, see if they need a place to stay or to get out of the community. And that's working really well for us. That's been around for quite a while. We have Family Place, which is our family drop-in program, which is for families 0 to 6 years old. It's currently not operating right now. We have our infant development program. We have a worker that works with the families on development of the infants, and if they have concerns of any kind for their children's development. We have a child youth special needs program where we work with families with children that have special needs. What else do we have? We have our community outreach program, which is a program that is tasked through the doctors to myself. I run that program, and that one is operating, and we're actually getting more requests for that as well. We offer family supports to families. They can either self-refer over if they're finding they just need some extra supports with their children and things going on at home, as well as families that are MCFD mandated for extra supports for the family to help them out. So right now, most of these programs are running. Just our family place is not currently running, but we're starting, we're going to be starting hooking up with some of the families through that to see what their needs are right now. Like, do they need extra diapers? Do they need baby food? Are they finding themselves needing more food securities at home? So we're just in the process of starting to get in touch with all our families with that. Reaching out to them. Our family supports is running right now. Everything is distant, so it's a lot of phone calls, some FaceTiming with some of the kids, starting to look at the Zoom program to reach out to the parents that way. Let's see, what else do we have? We have a group called Women Supporting Women, which is a lot of the marginalized women in our community that either come through our Stopping the Violence program or through our community outreach program. And it was just getting off the ground and doing really well. We would meet every other week, and the women were just really getting to know each other. And since the group has stopped, they're really missing getting together with everybody, but they have been keeping in touch with either phone calls or texting. So that's really great. We're really happy to see that they're not at home by themselves, you know, sitting out by themselves. A few other programs that we offer normally are parent supporting parent groups, a crock-pot class, boys and girls club. But those are all not operating right now because of the COVID. So, so that's kind of in a nutshell about Princeton Family Services. We are just really busy and trying to keep in touch and connected with all the people in our programs. So the community outreach, we do a lot of, similar to what Myrna was saying, groceries, pharmacies, connecting them with their doctors if they feel they just need to talk to the doctor for a bit. They're doing phone calls for appointments right now. Just a lot of phone check-ins with people, spending some time just chatting and making sure that everybody's okay. And lately we've been getting a few calls about helping them to apply for the CERB. That's available to people that aren't working or can't work due to the COVID. So, so lots of things going on at our organization right now.
That's great, Jen. You guys certainly have a lot on the go. I'm curious to know how are your staff coping with the change in work conditions, and is everyone feeling more stress, more strain at this point, or what's your sense of that?
Yeah, I think a little bit the staff are, because they don't want to get close, right, because of the social distancing. So the phone calls and kids don't want to talk on the phone all the time. So it's hard to reach out to the kids. So that's why we're trying to FaceTime even, because that's something that, you know, they seem to be able to handle, and so it's shorter times. When we're used to spending an hour with the families, we're down to like 10 or 15 minutes with the families, and of course we're worried about just things happening at home now, because I'm not sure if you're aware, but family violence has really gone up a lot since the COVID and everybody's staying home. Right. So everybody's kind of a little bit more on edge right now with just things that are happening that we can't get into the homes to visit and spend the time that we usually do. we've been wearing masks when we're dropping things off to the families. But yeah, everybody's just a little bit on edge, and like I said, of course, worried about all our families and everybody that we work with.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned the family violence side. Yeah, I've done a bunch of reading recently about how that was an expected outcome of this isolation process. So it's interesting to hear that that's what you're seeing at this point. Certainly, you know, I hope we can find a way to mitigate that. Because we don't know exactly how long this is going to go on. Have you had any changes in strategy in terms of how you might try to help families that are struggling with that particular situation?
Well, right now we're still taking referrals, and again, just reaching out by phone. That's pretty much all we can do. Our safe homes, like for the women that are fleeing, that's still available, and our worker is working lots still with taking phone calls, getting people into, we don't have like a shelter here in Princeton, so we'll put them up in a hotel for a couple days that way. She hasn't noticed a huge increase in her calls that way from women fleeing, but I think from what I hear from other places that work in this field is that a lot of the families are just, the women are just staying put for right now because they just really are unsure of what to do or what their choices are right now.
Right. Okay, well, thank you very much for that summary, Jenny. Really appreciate it, and really appreciate you coming on again. As mentioned before, there will be questions at the end, so please stay with us if you can. Next up, we have Cherry Fernandez from the South Okanagan Immigrant and Community Services Society. Cherry, if you can unmute yourself and turn on your video, that would be great. Are we there?
And there we go.
There you are. See you.
Okay,
go ahead.
Hello, all. My name is Cherry Fernandez. I am with the South Okanagan Immigrant and Community Services, or SOICS for short. So we work with permanent residents, so immigrants, naturalized Canadians, temporary foreign workers, international students, and refugee claimants. And our region is the South Okanagan Similkameen, so that is from Summerland down to Osoyoos and then out west towards Princeton. What we do is we provide language instruction for newcomers, as well as settlement services in our local immigration partnership for the region. What we have found recently is that our services have increased in demand. We have moved everything completely online, delivering everything remotely via telephone, Skype, email, or Zoom. So it was something that we had planned to expand our services to in the past year, but we had not yet implemented. So we had been talking about it for a year, but then due to the current situation, we had to quickly, like everyone else, get onto Zoom, and within a 2-week period, figure out how we were going to be managing all our services online. What we have found that there is an increased demand because our clients, not only are they here in our region, but we do have clients also abroad who are quarantined abroad because they're at home visiting family and they cannot get back. So there's a lot of information that's out there. I think everyone is experiencing a lot of information overwhelm. So many of our clients are coming to us asking help in understanding what are the benefits, what is the situation here in Canada. So we're trying to manage all of that remotely while we're learning the system and also teaching it to our clients. So we're finding it does take time, because we're not only learning it ourselves, but teaching it to our clients. The advantage to that, though, is that I think it's really helping build their capacity. a number of our clients, particularly refugees, may not even have access to technology or haven't used it before. They usually just use a cell phone. So a lot of it is quite new for them. And so we've been working with that. A lot of the gap that we have seen is that technology, not everyone has access to it. And if they do, they may be in a large family of 8 with one computer. And usually that would go to their children who are in school and having to manage learning from home. So one of the things that we have noticed at this time is that community partnerships are really important. We have one partner who is refurbishing computers for us and donating them back to newcomers that don't have that capacity to go out and buy a new computer. So we've been able to get them online. There has been some hiccups because we covered the South Okanagan. There are a lot of rural communities. So there are things where connections, for example, may not be as great in one area to another, but between telephone, emails, and online platforms, we are trying to find ways to connect. One of those projects, for example, that we have going on is an intergenerational project where we have seniors teaching youth how to cook. So it was a great way to socialize, but also passing on skills from seniors to youth. Now that's great in an in-person scenario, but we're now trying to find ways where we can host this via Zoom, but still respecting social distancing, making sure that everybody is safe and that we are taking advantage of delivery systems in place, and our partners who now have the time perhaps to help make these deliveries for us so that we can all participate. One of the others is another intergenerational one where it involved gardening with pre-K students, or children, so preschoolers and seniors, and talking about how to grow plants and where your food comes from. So again, we're trying to keep everything very visual, bringing in more activities, but it's a lot of learning on everyone's side. I would say one of the things I mentioned earlier is that information overwhelm. It's not only with clients, but we're finding that with our team as well. Everyone has their own networks, and every day you're getting multiple emails from many sources, which is great, but it's really hard to keep track. So we are really trying to utilize tools like Google Drive, where we can put all the information that, for example, is relevant to temporary foreign workers in one place. So when we have that question, we can all refer to it. Or using one email thread, which sounds like a small thing, simple thing, but it really does help when you remember, oh, I remember getting an email about this, but then go to your email and find that you have 50. So having one thread for one particular topic has really helped us to streamline and keep things organized. And a challenge is really managing time with the staff as well, because when we are in the office, our office is closed from 12 to 1. So you definitely know at this period of time, you have a break. But now when you're working from home, you're working via Zoom, we don't have those physical doors to say, okay, yes, at this time I'm on break. And like I had mentioned, that demand has increased. So I may be talking with a client and it only took 5 minutes. So I'm going to go on to the next person. Whereas if you had an appointment in office, you would have scheduled 1 hour. And once you were finished, you perhaps use the rest of that time to do more administrative work. So it's really kind of balancing that time at home and just having that awareness. We found that to be a bit of a struggle, but we're learning how to do that, to manage that. And then maintaining connection because everyone is working from home. we found that we have to, every day, we meet via Zoom, the entire team, and we kind of use that time to share resources, to get updates from everyone, and also to celebrate those successes that we are seeing, because when you're this isolated, you're not hearing about it all day, right? You may be stuck in your box of, oh, this is what's happening, but you don't see the bigger picture of that impact that you're having. So we found that connection, meeting on a daily basis has really been valuable. But yeah, that's kind of where we are right now. One area I would say that we've identified as a gap and we're looking to implement is our homework club. Now that all the learning has been moved to home-based learning, we found that a lot of newcomer parents are struggling because they are also learning the language. And now not only are they learning the language, they're having to support their children's learning at home using technology that they may not be familiar with. So we do have a settlement worker in the schools that is working with instructors or the teachers and providing interpretation, helping them with setting up their technology. But now we're finding there is that gap where parents need help to help their children through the homework that they're going through. So at this time, what we found is that there's a lot of people willing to volunteer. So that's been great. We're working on ways to create mentorships where we can help these families and their children with a homework club. So that's one area that we're still working on and developing right now.
That's great, Sherry. Thank you for that summary. It's interesting when you talk about learning, staying up to date with all of the changes in federal programs and even how to respond to the pandemic itself. You know, being a privileged English-speaking, Canadian citizen who was born here, I never even thought about the fact how difficult it would be if I didn't speak English or French. I'm assuming that the majority of the information does not come out in other languages, but is that actually the case?
Yes, the majority doesn't, but we're finding now, this week, we've seen a few resources now coming from the provinces, or our province, that has been translated. So that's been helpful.
Okay.
But it's usually we're relying on our team to connect with different individuals and provide some interpretation of what's been going on, and then also providing information in very simplified language.
Right.
And helping. We found a lot of parents, for example, are asking us, how do we talk to our kids about this? So our childminders, we don't have a childminding facility. So they've been doing a lot of work around explaining about the situation that we're now in and healthy practices like washing hands and connecting with kids and parents that way.
Right. Well, Sherry, thank you very much for your summary. As with the other groups, your organization is doing great work and you've adapted admirably to this current situation. So please stay on with us if you can for some questions at the end. I'd now like to invite Mirjana up to turn on her camera and her microphone, and maybe she can tell me how to pronounce her last name. Mirjana, if you're there, can you please join us now? And
hi.
Hey. How are you?
Thanks, Erin, for the invitation. And yeah, it's a difficult last name. It's Komljenovic. It's actually my Croatian heritage. So when I hear conversation about immigration and how difficult it is for people coming into the country and learning and adapting, that's something that I went through as a child with my parents. So it reminds me of the hardships and the coming together of people. So I'm here to talk about Neighbourlink Summerland. We are a very specific to Summerland organization that started about 18 years ago. We're a very community-driven organization. So all our programs, projects, and direct services are specific to what the requests are. And myself, I try to look for gaps and needs within the community. The direct services that we do come right from our office resource. What it is a donated space that is full of resources for anything that anybody might ask. So the majority of our requests come in through the phone, not exclusively, but the majority do. And the majority of our requests are coming from the seniors. Very much like the Better at Home program, we provide non-medical services such as doctor's appointments or other appointments. A lot of services have left the community over the last 10, 15 years, centralizing to other larger locations. So there's a lot of specialist appointments that are out of town. If someone doesn't have a vehicle, senior doesn't have a vehicle, how do they get there? Our services are all free. They come with no cost to anybody who uses our services, and there are no qualifications for the service. And also, on top of the direct services through our network of volunteers, we have about 65 vetted volunteers that provide the direct services to our clients. Because they're in-person services, we've had to suspend that. So which means that we've had to adapt quite a bit in order to connect with the community. Our motto is neighbors helping neighbors. So our volunteers now spend their time connecting with clients that we have on file, which means contacting them on a regular basis, seeing what their needs are, seeing how we can help in a safe way. We're finding that that has been very good for the community. A lot of the people are actually quite resilient and appreciate the supports. So there are some programs that we have sort of kept on a regular basis just because they've become an important part of the community. One of them is the monthly soup social that we've been facilitating for the last 11 years or so, bringing together people, anybody who wants to attend, bringing them together for just a monthly lunch and entertainment. And of course, we've had to suspend that, and which is heartbreaking because that is something that a lot of members of our community have always looked forward to. It's a very bright light in their month. We've had programs such as the community, the Great Christmas Matchup, where we would match those that are alone at Christmas time to hosts that wish to have somebody in their home, a stranger in their home for Christmas dinner. It's been a phenomenal project that has brought many people together. I don't know how that's going to look in the future. We'll just have to wait and see. We have a Community Cars That Care program. It's an ongoing program that provides a vehicle to a family at a very, very, very low cost. So the vehicle is donated and made check mechanically to make sure that it passes all safety standards, and then given to the family. That has been a great program. We haven't had any requests for that lately. We only do one of those every couple of years. So another program that we're doing is the Friendship Program, which is basically exactly how it sounds. Volunteers come to a home and just spend time with a person. Of course, that has had to be suspended. We were initiating, again, as I mentioned, we're community driven. which means that there was a need for a boys and girls, or excuse me, a youth-centered program in our community after the closure of Sadie, the Summerland Asset Development Initiative. So we were partnering with, and we still are partnering with the Boys and Girls Club to try to help initiate that program. Of course, that has also been put on hold for the time being. With regards to the youth, we have a youth entrepreneur bursary program through the school that we work with. And we also provide a leadership award in our Business and Community Excellence Awards, one of the ways that we reach out to the youth. So in terms of how we're dealing with things right now, I field a great deal of calls, messages, requests, either through the office or more so now, of course, online, with different requests. And I do my best to try to find the solution for the needs, however that might look. And that has become a really important part of how we're moving along with our programs and trying to connect neighbors as much as possible. Trying to make sure that everybody's looked after in some way, really trying to encourage the community to check in as often as possible. So I'm finding now that a lot of the requests are around mental health, people that are scared, people that are frightened of the virus itself. So what I've been doing is referring to our organizations within our community. So I've had requests for equipment, for tablets. I've had people come and offer, of course, services. And I referred a lot of people to the services that Myrna was speaking about, the BC 211 program. And as well as her, we've had a big uptake in volunteers, which is great to see. So I've even tried to connect online with our Facebook page and our website, just to talk to people about the different resources that they have available to them and such. So just trying to keep connected in that way. Yeah, that's about it.
Well, that's great, Mirjana. It must be a real challenge to be essentially the switchboard for so much community demand. So make sure you're looking after yourself and taking breaks when necessary. I'm sure it gets overwhelming. So before we get to questions, and I'll just give everyone a heads up that we will have a Q&A in a couple minutes here. I just have one more question for Mirjana, and it's related to your. You mentioned a minute ago that there's a lot more requests related to mental health. Would you say that the majority of that is also related to the pandemic and the anxiety around that? Or are different things coming to light that maybe were triggered by this, but people are now ready to talk about? Have you got a sense of that at all, or?
Aaron, both. Definitely, the pandemic has brought a lot of anxiety and fear out in people. Whether they were dealing with that prior, I don't know. You're right. Maybe this pandemic is the time that they're able to speak about this. I've had, without revealing too much, of course, healthcare workers that are feeling quite a bit of stress and just needing an avenue to talk through this. So again, I'm not a counselor, so I've had to refer that to where I can. So yeah, the pandemic has brought out definitely a lot of emotions. At the same time, the pandemic has also brought about a lot of people offering their help. So it works both ways.
Right. Okay, great. Okay, so we'll go to the Q&A now, and I'm going to ask Sarah Trudeau, one of our team members, to kind of vet the questions that have come in and bring them forward for the group. I'm going to try something a little different this week and ask all of the presenters if you could please turn your mics and your cameras on so that we can work our way through the Q&A fairly efficiently. That would be great. And yeah, Sarah, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much to all the speakers. You did a great job. We don't have a ton of questions, but there is one question that came in, and it's to all the speakers. So I'll go to that one after, and I'll get each of the speakers to address it. But first off, Kim Conroy, she made a direct comment to Terry, that's for you. I guess Foundry Princeton is also exploring ways to work remotely with young people. So she's interested in connecting with you. So perhaps you two can connect and talk about that. And then she also asked you another question, Terry. She said, thank you for addressing the challenges of finding balance when working from home. What are some of the tools you're using to set boundaries and deal with those challenges other than team meetings?
Okay. I would say the first thing that we had to put in is just that reminder to all of our team that they are not to use any personal devices. It's very tempting because we are in a field where we want to help people. So we want to be able to pick up our phone right away and just speak with them and help them. But we are working from home. So we did say right from the start that we are not to use any personal devices because there's that temptation there for people then to call you outside of our regular work hours. So all of our all our inquiries that are new, they go through our regular SOIX line. It gets forwarded to SOIX itself now, and then from there it will be forwarded to the right settlement person to help. So we do make sure that all of our accounts, any way that we communicate with clients or mentors or partners, they're all via SOIX accounts, whether that's Zoom, Skype, telephone, email. Another one that we're trying to really work on, we're still working our way through it, is creating a routine. And it is challenging because not only are we working from home, but so are our clients, and they have children at home, and that's completely changed for them as well. So we are trying to create a routine where we provide, for example, with the link classes, one classroom opens up their link class 30 minutes, for example, ahead of the class so that students can connect socially first. And then they have their class, the 2 hours after that, they continue on with their class. So it's really about creating routine, but also knowing that we have to, it's a big balance because you also want to be responsive and able to adapt. So it's really about that creating routine and also knowing that we're not alone, that when we get an inquiry, I don't have to come up with a solution all on my own. I can still connect with our team members and ask for their help, or have you seen this situation before? Or do you know what happens to a person who is in Canada under this status? So it's really about connecting with our team as well. So I found that our team like to talk more via Skype with each other, and they use Zoom more often when they're speaking outside with clients. It seems to be a little bit easier to set up Zoom with someone that doesn't have as much experience with technology.
Great, thanks so much, Terry. And actually another question came in for you. Are you still seeing new immigrants and refugees coming into the area and needing access to the resources you provide? What are the biggest struggles people in this situation, new immigrants and refugees, are facing during this time?
Okay, so we haven't seen anyone new come in because of course there are the travel restrictions, right? However, we do have clients that are fairly new, so they may have come just before all the closures had taken place. So we're still working on ways to get connected and to provide orientation and helping them find jobs. People are still looking for jobs. And those that are brand new to the workplace in Canada are asking for help in terms of understanding what are the norms in the Canadian workplace? What are my rights? How do I speak to my employers about such and such situation? So a lot of it is working one-on-one with clients. A big issue that we are finding is status. A lot of clients don't know where they stand because it is an uncertain time. So you have people that are in the country, for example, under a temporary foreign worker permit. Now, if that's ending in 3 months, what does that mean to them? Or maybe it's ending in a month. What does that mean to them? Do they get extended? Are they able to work? So a lot of this IRCC is still working through for themselves. So it's really just being upfront with them and giving them the tools where they can search as well and see. This is a link where we're getting the updates, for example. International students are also one of the groups that we're finding really struggling because they had, prior to this pandemic, they had restrictions that they could only work 20 hours a week during school time. That just today was lifted, and they can now work longer hours as long as that they are in a role that is deemed essential. So there's a lot of fear, I think, because people don't know where their status stands, what they are allowed to do, what they can't do. So I think, again, it's that information overwhelming and really connecting and making sure that we are sharing all the resources.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so I'm gonna go into the last question. So this one came in a little bit earlier, but it's for all of our speakers. So maybe I'll just get you to start, Sherry, because you've just been, you're on a roll here. So this first question, this is for all the speakers. Given all the challenges associated with the new normal, what do each organization hope they can retain as a positive lesson or outcome for managing the pandemic response?
I think for us, it's the use of online platforms, because we have been talking now for about a year about going online, but we haven't made that move. Now, because of the situation, we had to do that very quickly. I think from this situation, what's great is we've built our capacity. We're learning how to use these different platforms. And beyond that, we can be more accessible because we do cover a large region. We have an office in Penticton and in Oliver, but not everyone can get to those two particular offices. So this is another way that we can connect with them. And for mentorships, we often have requests for mentorships outside of regular business hours because people are working. They're either our clients or the mentors that want to be able to help are working. So this gives us another option to connect people outside of those business hours, but not having to find a physical space for them to meet. So I think it really helps open up other ways that we can serve clients and connect with the community.
Great, thanks so much. All right, so I'm going to pass the same question over to Myrna.
Yeah, I'm certainly been, it's been very warming to see the number of volunteers that have stepped up and really hoping that there's some really good community connections made from that people will continue to connect with each other and really build that sense of community. And I also think, as you know, we're reminded every day how vulnerable our seniors are to this particular virus and other viruses, and how do we better care for them ultimately, not only in our community but across the country. So how do we keep people safer? I hope that certainly will be something that comes, some of the positive that comes out of this.
So, so Myrna, I know a question came in about volunteers. And how do you convince your volunteers that it's okay to leave home and participate?
Well, we make sure that they have the protocols in place to keep things safe. You know, it's challenging because a lot of volunteers that have been the ones that have come forward have been seniors themselves. So, you know, in that regard, we're more likely to pair those up with phone visits, that sort of thing. You know, you have to get a bit creative, but it's yeah, you know, we need to have people of all ages come and help out so that we can build those intergenerational connections as well, and lots of different ways to do things. But that is one of the challenges in that regard. Yeah.
Great, thanks so much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to pass the question over to Jenny. So again, what do you hope that you can retain as a positive outcome or lesson from managing the new normal?
That is that was a tough question. I had to really think about what's the positive coming out of this, and I think similar to what the other ladies were saying, just with the connectiveness that's coming out of it, how people are starting to reach out to each other more, that we're noticing in some of our, like our women's groups and stuff. They're, you know, like they're texting and they're phoning and reaching out, make sure they're okay. I had a senior say she made a whole bunch of soup and passed it around to people, you know, in her building where she's living. So just people reaching out to each other, it's, you know, it brings a really good sense of the community to you. And again, the technical learning, that's something I'm not great at. And a lot of our clients, same thing, seniors, you know, people that don't have access. And so how are we going to keep connected with these people other than, like, when it's not COVID? Of course, we do so much face-to-face and visiting and spending time with these people. And it sounds like this is kind of our new normal for a while. So how, you know, we all need to learn these new technical ways of reaching each other and reaching out to each other. And so hopefully we're all going to gain a sense of understanding how to use all of these technologies. So.
Great, thanks so much. Actually, that just reminds me, yesterday I read that TELUS is donating tablets and data to seniors specifically. So if you're an organization that's working with seniors, I know they're looking to donate some devices to help their seniors stay connected. So something to look into. You can just Google it. I found all the information yesterday. All right, so I'm going to pass this question again now over to Mirjana. Some of the positive lessons or outcomes.
So thank you, Sarah. And I have to agree with the ladies. Connectiveness is something that I really hope that we can build on within our community. We've seen that throughout this entire pandemic, people reaching out to each other. One thing that I kind of had thought about is, yes, technology, teaching each other technologies has become very, very important for everybody. And I hope that that is definitely an outcome. But I'm also feeling like we could really benefit from our pioneers teaching us skills that they learned that we've kind of lost track of. I'm hoping that that happens a little bit more, such as canning and gardening, all these baking bread. These are all been big things that people are kind of like, well, how do I do this? I've never done this before. And I think that would be a great way to connect the intergenerational skills with each other. Maybe the youth can teach the seniors more technology, and then the seniors or the pioneers can teach the youth some more, the youth and families, some of those skills that they picked up when they were young. Just something I thought about.
Great, thanks so much.
I think that's it, right, Sarah?
I think that's it.
Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Really informative presentations from all of our speakers. And thanks to everyone who participated and learned a little bit about what's going on in our region. We really do appreciate everything that you're doing. You're obviously on the front lines doing all of the very hard work. So thank you for your commitment to your communities and to your clients. And we will be posting this on our website again, and also it will be on Shaw Cable. So thanks very much, everybody. Stay safe, stay home, and we'll talk to you next week. Have a great day.